Well, I'm here at Wheaton College with Professor Stephen Bretson, and he's agreed to talk to me for a few minutes about advice he gives to pre-law students, undergraduates who come into his office and ask about law school. We've talked about this over the years. Steve and I have known each other for a while, and he is the pre-law advisor and Volkman Chair of Business Law at Wheaton College here in Wheaton, Illinois, and is the department chair here in the Department of Business and Economics, and a good friend. And he's got good advice for his students and has been doing this for a while, so I thought it might be helpful if we had this conversation on the air, so to speak, and see if you can give some advice. So let's just start with the basics. There, right. When somebody wanders into your office and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to law school," what are some of the things you want to talk to them about and ask?
Sure. You know, and students come in and they're basically focused on law school. You know, and understandably so, because I think when students are thinking about that next stage after college, going to another school is something familiar, right? They've been in school, they know how to apply to schools, they know how to do essays and things like that, and so that's what's familiar to them. So they're focused on law school, and one of the things I try to do is to get them to look beyond those 3 years of law school and to look beyond law school and to really focus on what does the practice of law look like, and is God calling me to that, and not focus on law school, but to focus on not just the 3 years, but focus on the 40 years of a legal career, and really focus on their calling. And usually one of the first questions I ask them is, well, what do you know about the practice of law? And for most students, you know, some have parents who are attorneys, and so they know something about it. For most of them, if they're honest with me, they look kind of sheepish and say,
"No, not really.
I don't know really anything about the practice of law." Or they say, well, they look kind of sheepish and say, "Well, anything I know comes from a TV show or a movie or something like that," which is, you know, not a documentary. It's entertainment. So we begin talking about that practice of law. And what I really encourage students to do is set law school aside and go talk to some attorneys, just as a starting place. And I have attorneys, obviously, that I know through my connections here at Wheaton College, mostly in the Chicago area.
And you were a practicing lawyer yourself.
I was, and so I can talk to them about that. But what I often have them do is I say, just go, when you're home for a break, for summer or something like that, you know, between your church contacts, your parents' work contacts, you're going to find an attorney. You know, one of the jokes is there's too many attorneys in the United States, so you're going to find one, and one attorney is a portal into a whole world of attorneys.
Right.
And if you can just talk to that one attorney, even if they're practicing in the area that you think you're not interested in at all, like they're doing family law, and you think, oh, you know, family law, divorce, custody, that's not for me. You know, you should still talk to that lawyer. Number one, the day-to-day practice of law across practice areas looks more the same than it does different.
Right.
And number two, that attorney is going to know attorneys in other practice areas, and maybe one of the most important questions you ask that attorney, aside from things like, what do you like about what you do, what do you hate about what you do, what's a typical day like for you, you know, how do you relate your clients to other attorneys, to, you know, just asking a lot of just information.
So what do you do every day? What does the life of a lawyer look like?
Exactly, just those basic informational interview questions. Maybe the most important question you ask that first attorney is, this has been really great, this has been helpful, thanks. I'm also interested in, you know, X area of the law. Do you know an attorney there?
Yeah.
And then just start the networking ball rolling. So I try to get them off of focusing on law school, thinking about the practice of law, and then as they're exploring that practice of law through these informational interviews, begin asking them questions, some of them that you often focus on in your book, and I know you focused on with students. We just had a session last night with some students, which is about not only what are your gifts and talents, but, and you say it best, all about the gift, right?
Yeah. What gift have you been given that you're going to be serving with?
And do you see yourself being able to serve neighbors? You know, the neighbors and the law, as you've pointed out in your book, are your clients, colleagues, support staff, opposing counsel, judges. There's a whole world of neighbors there in the practice of law. And do you see yourself serving those neighbors? Through the practice of law, based on what you're learning through these informational interviews, shadowing. Ideally, if you can get an internship opportunity, I think those are all good ways to look at that 40 years, to look sort of at the marriage instead of focusing on the 3 years and the wedding. Right?
Yeah, that's good. I think that's very good.